Again.
I try to be dynamic, informal, so I will agree on short notice. So we go there, then I meet him there. I'm not sure what it's about. Then Laudi excuses himself from the meeting. Then I must now chair, and take over. Then the document, I'm giving this 3-page document. Obviously, I scan through it, what it's about, so we can have a meeting. I look at it. It's talking about the rebranding SABC News. The SABC will provide resources. TNA will not pay any rental, or SABC will provide journalists. TNA will retain advertising revenue. Just, there, it's enough for me to understand the context of our meeting or the aim of the meeting, right? So when I look at the 3-page document, now even if I wrote the document, the same document to launch the news channel itself, I think it was 60 pages or something, I can't remember. Now we are talking about the takeover function of a national broadcaster with 3 pages. Just that itself was enough for me, to send him back. But, I had to be nice and find the cunning way to say, just go and make it more appealing, and so we send it back. Yeah.
Do you know whether this happened before ANN7 was launched? And then, my time's running out, so I'm going to ask you 3 questions. Do you know whether that happened before ANN7 was launched? Do you know of any other attempts by the Guptas or any of the organizations to try do further business with the SABC or take over any other functions of the SABC?
It was certainly before ANN7 was launched. I think soon after I heard that the construction had begun in Midrand for the other studio, which was obviously done a bit in a rush, as per launch showed. So I figured that because the other one was not successful, then they proceeded. No, the others, I wasn't sure really if there was any certain broadcasts like the morning things. There were operational things I wouldn't get involved in. I would be involved with those that cut across to infrastructure, so those that required support and so on. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Ma'am Louis.
Thanks, Chair. Mr. Masinga, I'm on page 7 of your document.
Okay.
The last paragraph there, that paragraph alludes to the fact that in 2013, there was an attempt to amend the MOI.
Yeah.
And then again in 2014, it happened, and Sipho this time endorsed it. Can you bridge the gap between those two? Because it was Sipho who rejected it in 2013, who submitted it in 2013.
Yeah.
And why was it then accepted when submitted by the minister? Because we view it as something which is fraudulent.
Yeah, okay. The document of 2013 and the one accepted in 2014 by Sipho is the same alleged document of Mr. Enapule. Right. They tried to file it the first time. It was rejected. Right. Purportedly, it was sent by her direct. So she wrote a letter informing a board of an intention to amend the articles. That is all that is on record. And we do have that letter as part of the case, the court file. So that letter was used as a notice or as a resolution by mere fact that she notified the board of her intention to amend. So that was the last communication, and then she was removed soon after. Right. How then the document reached Sipho, who filed it? Things you sign, you incur expenditure. Which organization, who he was instructing it? It lists on the submission document, I think it's Ngubane and Co, as I say. Who was instructing them? On what authority? Right. So that is when the issue arises. So it was filed to Sipho, don't know by whom, on which board resolution, right? Sipho rejects it, right? It comes back, right? Assuming whatever was wrong was fixed, I don't know by whom again, because you see that question arises. And then it is resubmitted again. No one knows with any major changes or not. Again, not clear with whose authority. Sipho responds to say it has accepted. So, it's like a bank writing and say you've won or you have a deposit of money, but you don't.
You're watching SABC News. These are live visuals out of the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee inquiry into the SABC Board's fitness to hold office that's currently underway in Cape Town right now. Parliament experiencing some audio problems. Well, you're hearing from there Mr. Sipho Masinga, the former head of technology at the national broadcaster. He's taking questions from MPs this afternoon. Now, coming into focus is the multi-choice contract with the SABC and government policy around set-top boxes. Now, Mr. Masinga saying Mr. Motsoeneng did approach him to have the technology division he was running at the time report to him, but Masinga says he was opposed to this reporting line, which he viewed at the time as a demotion. His testimony, of course, shedding light on the relationship between Mr. Motsoeneng and CEO Lulama Mokgobo. Masinga says he found Ms. Mokgobo reduced to tears in her office one afternoon. Mr. Masinga saying he was asked by Mr. Motsoeneng's office why he should not be suspended. He did not respond to such questions at the time and returned to his desk, resuming his duties. He did say he did write to the board at the time expressing his concerns, saying he would resign if the board called for it, but this did not come to pass. We want to reiterate that freelance journalist Vuyo Mvoko was not fired by the SABC. Now, early on today, it has been a packed day at the inquiry. We also heard from former SABC Human Resources Chief Jabulani Mabaso, and also the former Labour Relations General Manager Madiba Nkosi. Well, the DA at the same time has welcomed the ruling that sets aside Hlaudi Motsoeneng's position as Group Corporate Executive of Corporate Affairs.
What is now absolutely critical is that as we speak right now, Mr. Motsoeneng is not an employee of the SABC. He can't go to work, and if anyone finds him at work today, they must make sure he is removed from the building, because he can't carry on being a blesser over December, issuing away illegal contracts, making sure that he undermines the public protector's remedial action. We are of the complete view today it's a victory for justice. Mr. Motsoeneng cannot work at the SABC, and ultimately I'm also glad that he personally must pay back the cost for this case so he stops litigating on the basis of the taxpayers' money.
All right, let's take you back now to the Ad Hoc Committee's inquiry into the affairs of the SABC that's underway in Cape Town. Let's listen in.
Okay. This one? Thanks, Chair. Mr. Masinga, let's go to page 9, the top paragraph, where you are reflecting on the do's and don'ts by the chairperson. Can you rehash what you are saying there? because I think it is critical for the work that we are doing, that he has no powers to do some certain things, as you have captured there. That he is not allowed to submit anything on behalf of the board. Are you standing by what you are saying there?
No, indeed true. Without a correct board resolution, the chairperson has no say. You must be mandated by a board. Even if you're going to issue a press statement, the board must mandate you to go and address the public. So if I'm sure people have sent requests to be interviewed, I doubt me myself won't be available until the 9-member resolution is available requesting such. Otherwise, it's a non-entity.
You were able to protect the wickets at SABC until you went to a trip where on your return you found that certain things have been done incorrectly. Is that not implying that there were no systems in place? Because if systems are in place with or without your presence, nothing can tamper with the systems. What actually went wrong when you left?
It's true. The breakdown of internal control systems quite a long time ago. It was really pure, what do you call it, grit and guts that was sort of keeping us from limping from crisis to crisis. So unless somebody speaks up, like there was a period when we didn't have a CEO, obviously because other people had preference for themselves for the role. For about 2 weeks or so, I think after Ms. Lulama. So imagine you don't have a CEO, you can't have anything signed. Right. When I stood up again and took it up to the board to say we must have a CEO and we need a CEO now. There was a fight about it, but I knew they were lobbying, and some people, when they look for an acting person, they don't look for a strong person. They look for the weak person. They even discuss these things in their meetings, right? So obviously we couldn't sit back. Some people prefer to sit back. And then I think Tian eventually got, and the balance was maintained. That was why things were okay until about after September, when the wheels really began coming off.
The last one for me is a request. Can you provide us with the original copy of the MOI and also sign your statement before you leave where you are seated? Because I think that is critical for us.
I will. I did provide the
original MOI.
Yeah, I provided the articles to show the procedure and the documents that you must have as evidence that you have amended the MOI. So before you get to the MOI, the process to amend the articles is contained in the articles. Right, so those documents that are in the 2011 amendments, all they needed to do was show us the existence of them, and it will have been the end of it. But of course, we know they don't exist.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honorable Khoza.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you very much to you, sir. If you can go to page 6 for me, I just want you to clarify the statement on paragraph 3, where you say, when I returned there, there had been a new acting CEO who was Motsaneng's report. I knew that being away had provided a window of opportunity and knew well that I could never personally trust the individual. Who is this individual and who is this CEO, the new acting CEO that you are talking about here, sir?
The acting CEO who kept the ship afloat after Ms. Mohobo was Tian Olifi. Tian was the acting CFO. So it was purely based on the financial perspective to keep the organization going until a decision is made, right? But the money kept on coming, and I warned him that I was increasingly getting concerned with the profits we were posting, seeing that Motsaneng, was more and more going public now to say the company is sustaining, he's the engine of the company. I said, we're going to have a problem here, right? Then it's fine, he didn't listen, and so on and so on. Then I left on tour with a trip with my team of engineers, right? We were invited to Singapore and so on to meet our counterparts that side, who were also doing construction. when I came back, Anton Yenis, who was the head of sales, I'm sure you will have seen him on some TV briefings with Motoneng, was the then acting CEO. Right. This is now Anton who took his motivation to Ms. Mohobo to request that sales must go report to Motoneng himself. Right. So I knew that here there's going to be a problem. But I just couldn't establish the source of what was about to happen.
Okay. I just want to draw you on page 4, sir. If you can go to that one again. The third paragraph there. You are where you say on another day, sometime later. There is a statement that you are making in that paragraph. In fact, I'm not going to be reading that. You know that statement very well. Especially where you say, I also narrated to him how this had filtered into the government policy, having been informed by policy positions of the ANC. He resorted then, I must not tell him about the ANC. Those people were useless. All they were good at was releasing statement which meant nothing. Now, what I want to find out from you, sir, is that probably you will agree with me. This thing is back, Chair. Probably you will agree with me that clearly if Mr. Motoneng was educated, we would say he's Michael Machiavelli, okay? But in this case, we wanted to know who are these individuals that are behind him, those individuals with authority, because clearly he is not getting his mandate from the ANC, nor is he getting his mandate from the policies of government. So, in other words, there is no institutional there is no institution where he derives or a respectable system where he derives his mandate from. Obviously, he's deriving it from somewhere. And where is that? And I'm hoping that you will be brave enough and actually tell us.
No, I wouldn't be. In that instance, I wouldn't be. Look, he wanted no encryption policy, right? Against obviously the policy, long-standing policy. He got the policy, right? He wanted the new MOI. He got the new MOI. So I think we can deduce from there.
Now, this is my last question. I want to know, when all of you as executives are leaving, who replaces you? And what informs that replacement? I know it may be an unfair question to you, because maybe you are not necessarily there, but it's important to us, when you are losing this kind of skill, this level of skill that we have seen repeatedly, and we are now concerned about who is replacing you. Are you aware of what is happening currently?
Yes, I am. That's why certain things that happen in certain meetings, we know. It doesn't help. You know, there was a fellow who was an advisor to the minister when they were dealing with my case. And this advisor then eventually ended up a chairperson somewhere else. It demotivates people to fight, you know. So those things are why some people, they don't fight, even though they're in meetings and people are discussing who must act. But we don't want this one. This one is too strong. Right now...
Interject, Chair. No, yes, Chair, because you said the individual concerned, Mr. Motoneng, is anti-intellectualism. I'm very concerned because I consider myself as one of those. Now, if you are saying he's anti-intellectualism, obviously, if he pushes you out, he obviously replaces you with people who are like him. True.
He said it publicly, I mean, many times about education, educated people, certifications. It's no secret.
Honourable Swart.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Mr. Masinga. And we just want to commend you for taking a stand on the MOI and at great personal expense taking that litigation to court. I think the whole issue is, captured on page 8, where you say in the second last paragraph before in conclusion, it is not necessary to point out the results of the said MOI document, which has become the root cause of everything the committee will be inquiring upon. Would you further comment on the statement that you made that the board, if I understood you correctly, following the MOI, the board has no governance and has become an extension of the department? And you said you phoned Professor Kumalo about your concerns about that. Is that a correct reflection of how you see things as we are considering the role of the board? In other words, you are saying the board can play no effective role.
If that MOI stands, it contains a section, for instance, which says the minister may approve any matter on round robin. That literally means that the chairperson can want something and send it to the minister. She signs it off. Done. Why do you need the 12-member board? You don't need them anymore. So it's systematically written in finer details. There's many sections there that effectively what it does, it makes the Broadcasting Act redundant. That is the net effect that I can just summarize it. Yeah.
And I'm sure we all cannot agree with that, and that situation cannot be allowed to continue. Just to then comment a bit on your involvement and your discussions with MultiChoice.
Okay.
What was your reaction to when you heard of the final, I use the word sale, maybe it's not sale, but of the archive equipment, of the archive documents that led to that quite substantial bonus being paid to Mr. Motsoeneng? Was that something that surprised you following the discussions with MultiChoice, which you seem to indicate from your statement that you were very opposed to those discussions, or was it a different discussion that you were involved with?
No, it was the very same one. The initial contract, that was for 60 million, just for the news channel. In my view, that was fine, as I had said, right? Because it was for a single channel, deals with a specific service. And it's a new channel, they will broadcast it, SABC will get to incubate it. So it was a mutually beneficial. But I'll tell you, honestly, something happened when the old board dissolved. In my view, personal view, Motsoeneng was scared of Ngubane to an extent, or respected him, right? When then Chairperson Zandile Shabalala, former Chairperson, came, his attitude changed significantly. It became a little bit more brazen, sort of. That was the first thing I noticed. That is why I would also talk to the chairperson to say, you know, there's a change of the manner of attitude is not the same. This is when the change of policy first began. There was no mention of such things when Ngubane was there, I can assure you. It was only when the new board chaired by former chairperson died, then things were stopping things every day.
You make mention of a discussion that the CEO of MultiChoice came to the SABC and had a discussion with the COO without the SABC CEO knowing about it at all.
Yes,
that also sounds very strange to me.
They met a few times, even when the STB control policy, they would come together, the two. I didn't personally like MTS because he exhibited a bit of superiority complex, which undermines my intellect, of course. I think I'm psychologically very advanced, astute. You know? So I wouldn't sit in a meeting with him because, you know, the manner, like if you saw how he responded to, I think, Verona, you know, he'll sit there and tell you, you know, produce all the rubbish. He had that thing, which I said to Motsoeneng right then, don't invite me to a meeting with this man, otherwise, because I know anything that happens there is not recorded because those meetings are not legal. Right. So we never met again since, but they now had a common enemy because we wanted to make the SABC about 2.5 billion in 5 years, right? Which was what legally is due to us. Well, it was due to us then when I was there for the mass carry, right? He goes, he negotiates a contract that pays 500 million over 5 years, and you get a bonus. I don't know. I don't understand it.
Yeah, thank you. And we're just trying to understand. Is my time finished? Sorry, Chair. Last Chair. Yeah. So nothing has come of your attempts to negotiate that MultiChoice should pay SABC for the carrying of SABC programs. That seems to be what you and that would make sense to me as well.
Indeed. After the meeting we had, the second version of the contract, from the 60 million out to the 100 million, contained now the terms that came from that meetings to try and cover everything in one contract at only 100 million. This is when we significantly differed, because in my view, this was really a sale of a national asset, right? And I can't be educated and uneducated at the same time. I'm not sure what I was being asked to be, right? But I can see the figures. I can see that this year we are killing this company. You will not see it while analog broadcasts, because the only reason why the SABC is still on air is because you can't add more competitors terrestrially. There is no spectrum. That is the only reason. If tomorrow you woke up and you added 2 more competitors, the SABC will be where the post office is. So I knew that we are sort of protected by the physical constraint of the available resources. But when you go to digital, you're going to have new players, right? Some of them whom are the partners, they are all launching channels. So now, what was protecting you is removed. Remember what happened to Telkom when the monopoly was removed? But when do we learn? Why do we keep going through the same cycle over and over?
Yeah,
thank you, sir. Did I hear you well when you said the then chair also attempted to becoming the CEO? Shabalala.
Yeah, she called the group to say she's been asked to act as a CEO. I'm not sure as by whom, but we were fine with Shabalala. So I went to her and I advised her how previously there was a board member who had an interest in a position. That interest nearly led to a breakdown of the board. So
it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
No. Could you perhaps just briefly, the member was saying that he commended you for your boldness. Well, it's just that he came too early. I would have said, well, we can't clap hands for the fish when it swims, because that's what it's supposed to be doing in the first place. But anyway, why are the other senior managers afraid of Mr. Mtswening at SABC? What is this thing that they fear this much?
I don't know. Maybe it's different personalities, to be quite honest. I don't really know myself. Well, he talks a lot of threats, obviously, always warning people. That is his language. I guess people, then they see what happens to those who challenge him. Maybe they then become subdued and so on. Yeah.
Who appointed Aguma? And who is this person?
Aguma was appointed by Mtswening around January 2013, personally, directly. I mean, I'm not sure where he got him. Where the head he was with the AG, but he wasn't on our account at the SABC. I remember because when Aguma came, Mtswening had just been removed by the then board just before it dissolved. So he wasn't in the office. So we had to receive him, right? And get the CEO to sort of hide the embarrassment. Okay, that there was a person coming to start, and the signature was removed, right? But before we know it, then he became acting CFO. I think I did oppose that because in my knowledge, he did not have experience of becoming a CFO. He had been an auditor. I had not known him to have ran as much as a finance department. Now, those are two different things, auditing and being a CFO, right? From there, then CEO, acting CEO, yeah. That's why I never addressed him on any of our documents, because I consider him junior, to be quite honest.
What is this current status now on this complicated matter of inscription and the I mean, is it that's a matter that's at court as we speak?
To the Constitutional Court, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
The question, there's something that I didn't hear you responding to it. Do you know anything about the archives of SABC that landed in MultiChoice?
That was part of that contract that we were fighting about. It was those additional clauses that were introduced after the interim board came. So it became a contract talking about everything, archives, mass carry, new channels. So we were not sure what we were dealing with. So it was the whole of the SABC now. So that's why we couldn't agree. And then I refused to participate, of course, in that process.
Okay. The relationship between the COO and the rest, obviously, the rest, I would say, they've all been ejected, as you have said, and one would assume, as you have said, that the current people are actually the yes bosses at the SABC, including the board members.
Indeed, everyone else. So many settlements have been issued. I think half the EXCO, not half, in fact, maybe 80% or 70% of EXCO is gone. Like I said, that I knew when I left, EXCO is finished. And I didn't swallow my words. There's only maybe 4 people who don't fight much, who typically do what they are told, which is fine for them. Even those that were close, your Verona Tuakas, your Jimmy Matthews, who were sometimes, I would fight with them not knowing I was fighting for them. When that shell was removed, they soon discovered it was hard to breathe.
Chair, I think that's why I end.
Yeah. Thank you kindly. And Honourable Mokoena.
Sure. Thanks, Chair. I just need to confirm this. So you're saying that Hlaudi Motsoeneng and possibly his cabal, the people that he drinks with, the powers that be that maintain his lifestyle and pay him, think that the ruling party is useless and toothless to the point that they just write statements. Is that what he said to you?
It is a true account of our conversation, and that is why I was so incensed. That's why I recounted it, because it's significant to the breakdown of our relationship. It's a significant factor when I knew that I think he had lost it, according to me.
Yeah.
And I was not. At some point, he said I had a long-term view, as written here. I said, of course, what I'm going to be doing with myself for the next however many years.
So, and it's also your firm view that the Minister of Communications signed off on a document that was illegally constituted, and that document was then approved by the DTI.
What when we went to court, we tried to pull SABC file from Cipro. First, I think we were told there was an instruction that there must be approval from a director to pull an entity file. We pressed on, we used other lawyers because I was really ready for a fight. Right. Then we had that file disappeared. I don't know. But we never got the SABC file. Okay. That is what we were informed, that the file disappeared. I had paid people to go through that file. Because what I needed was the evidence, like the 2011 document. That's all we needed. This resolution from an AGM is there, it's signed by all the board members, as usual. The minister has signed the documents, Minister Tanapule. Until today, I've never seen former Minister Tanapule's signature on her own alleged document, let alone the board resolution.
Okay. And then, do you have anything piece of paper, anything that is evidence to the effect that Mr. Motsoeneng and Mr. Nazim Hoa were in the process of attempting to sell a portion of a national key point?
I don't think, you know how these things run. You are called on the phone and we discuss on the corridor. There isn't anything written. If I remember, the first thing that was going to be signed was a register, which I think the head of legal was there, then Mbulu, if I remember, to sign the register to say who was in the meeting. In my view, this was to then identify stumbling blocks. That's why I said there will be no register today, because this meeting did not happen, you know, until that document comes. That's why I didn't take this contract, because there were going to be follow-ups.
Yeah.
There was going to be a communication channel, right? And I wanted it dead then there, and without a possibility of another, because if another person had chaired that meeting, if I was deemed the problem, they would have met me at ESCO, right? Or the board committee.
Yeah.
And I will have shut it down there, because I will have made sure we took a resolution to say this thing didn't happen, so we didn't consider it. So you can't therefore come back with it.
Last question. Last question. This Mr. Raditabo, who succeeded you,
Yes.
is he from the Free State?
Yes, he is from the Free State.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm laughing because you did it in your time, for no other reason. I'm just laughing that you did it in 5 minutes. Mr. Masinga, thank you so much for making time. I do think that it was very useful information. As we've said, is there anybody from the SABC here to answer questions on behalf? Not anybody. Board members of the SABC? None? All right. Mr. Masinga, thank you very much, sir. As we indicate to every other member, our processes run until the 28th of February.
Okay.
If between now and the 28th of February there's something that comes to mind and you think it would be useful for our own mandate to strengthen our report, please feel free to call us. Once that information arrives at my office, we will share it with the committee and therefore with South Africans. So please, it's not the end of the road. You could give us as much information, if indeed there is more information that you'd want to share with us. Outside of that, sir, geniet u Kersfees en 'n voorspoedige nuwe jaar. No. You were an intellectual. That's why you said that. Happy Christmas and prosperous New Year. There's tea outside. I know our next guests have arrived. Sorry, we're just running a bit late. But everybody, there's tea outside. Can we have tea in 5 minutes and come back?
All right, you're watching live visuals from the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee inquiry into the SABC Board's fitness to hold office. We just heard that proceedings have broken for a 5-minute tea break. Taking questions, we heard Mr. Sipho Masinga, former head of technology